We're back and discussing the fact that today is 50 years since the Birmingham, because that's what it was, the Birmingham church bombing that took the lives of 4 little girls. And, you know, part of the reason I wanted to commit this much time on live television to thinking about something that happened 50 years ago is in part to try to figure out what it says about where we are today. Do you have a sense of that, Anthea?
Yeah, I think it says a couple of things about where we are today. One is that we're willing to forget what history is, and we're not willing to really remember. I mean, so many times what we hear now in the media is that we're past this moment. You know, there's no racism anymore, and that there's no connection between things that happened in Birmingham 50 years ago and the deaths of young men and women right now in America. We don't seem to care. So that's one. The second thing is that we don't, if we don't figure out a way to connect this history to where we are now and the struggles that we're having in this nation, whether they be racial struggles, economic struggles, all of these things where people are still fighting for equality right now, today, we've missed the point. We've missed the sacrifice of these 4 little girls. We've missed the sacrifice of everyone in the civil rights movement, because we are not finished. And that's the problem. We are not finished. We are not done. This thing is not won yet.
It's sort of an unfortunate thing that none of this is really taught in school, right? I mean, I don't think there's anyone who studies the bombing and the killing of these 4 little girls. And I think what ends up happening is this, I mean, in high school.
Yeah, in high school. No, that doesn't happen in high school.
And so what ends up happening is you get this sort of sanitized one-sentence version of what's happened. And for example, as everybody likes to refer to Dr. King's speeches, I have a dream, when it really wasn't. Like, if you go back and read that, I was like, go read that speech. Parts of it will make you very uncomfortable. You know, and so when you start reading that to an audience, you know, the Negro has been delivered a bad check. It's like, oh, go back to the content of Go back to the dream. Go back to the dream. But I think it's what ends up happening, to your point, is that people don't understand the sort of the domestic terrorism, the definitions of what terror was and is today, and how we think about where we are as a nation, where whenever we have racial strife, as if it's come out of nowhere, and if you would just stop talking about it, Melissa, it would go away.
I'm reminded, Joy, that you and I were together right after the president made that really extraordinary statement where he said, you know, I could have been Trayvon Martin, of course, which also reminds us that Trayvon Martin in some 30 years, in some point, could have been President Obama. And so, you know, as every time we see the image of the 4 little girls, and I look around this table and I think, and here at this table at this moment are 4 adult women of color who could have been those girls, but who also those girls could have been here. And whatever it is that they might have done, whatever it is they could have contributed, is gone in that moment. And that is still true when our children are shot. That is still true when our children are taken away by an education system that fails them and incarcerates them. Like, that idea of who those 4 little girls might have been someday.
Yeah, and Miles College, the HBCU that's based in Birmingham, just gave them posthumously their degrees. That was one of the things that also happened this weekend, because they made that very point that you're making. These girls could have been anything. You know, the first black mayor of Birmingham graduated from Miles College, so they could have been that. But, you know, the other thing briefly is that I think this whole the change from then to now, it illustrates the decline of institutions. Because if you think about it, maybe because of the sense of siege, I mean, there was a good 20-year period in African-American history where you had black churches and institutions like SNCC organized big national organizations that actually had a gravity and a moral authority within the black community and nationally. And now you just have much more disparate, smaller groups. There is no communal black church that's collectively organizing to stop gun violence or collectively organizing to stop, you know, we had it in the crack epidemic in the 80s. We saw it with busing in the 70s. That's kind of missing now.
Thank you so much, Joy Reid, Anthea Butler, and John Nichols. I really appreciate all of you being here. This is an important moment to mark. When we come back, we're going to go, I'm telling you, in a very different direction. In 2013, what is the role of Miss America? Yeah, seriously, we're nerding up Miss America right here on MHP Show. Next.